Well, welcome everyone. This is Raquel, and it is September 22nd in the year 2022. And this is the fall equinox in the northern and the spring equinox in the southern hemispheres. And I'm very, very honored that you are taking the time to join me for this activation of light during this beautiful equinox energy and gateway, if you will. There has been so much that has been going on in the outer world, in the inner world, in the multiverse. Many of you have been feeling the effects of the profound changes that are happening, that are being experienced in the physical body, in the 3D world, along with all of your multidimensional aspects throughout all of the different expressions that you are experiencing in this now moment. And one of the things that is consistently starting to show up for many, and one of the things that will be a focus moving forward, is to be operating outside of time. And time as we know it is simply a construct that has been a function of this level of consciousness and this level of our egoic structures. And many of you are starting to notice that time is unraveling and that it is really even more difficult than normal, whatever normal is, on this incredible journey of light. But as time continues to unravel and as we continue to take apart polarity, and that's literally what we're doing, we are deconstructing the fabric that allows the consciousness of polarity to exist. Take a nice deep breath with that and really allow that to sink in. We are literally deconstructing, taking apart, and dissolving the very fabric on which polarity exists. And when you really begin to understand from not the head, but from your heart, from your multidimensional essence, from your higher self and higher knowing, the understanding that time really doesn't exist, and then learn to how to, it's not even learning, it's relearning, it's remembering, it's surrendering. Again, there's that word. Surrendering into the now moment and really learning how to experience your day-to-day in the now moment. And for many, that is going to be one of the key mastery skills that are going to allow you to walk through this transitional phase with more ease and grace. And those that are very tied to schedules and regimens and things have to be done A, B, and C, I'm going to suggest and highly recommend that you really start to go deep within and start to reconcile that within your own experience. Because as we continue through this expression of deconstructing the binary and the polarity, time and the way that we move through space and time is going to shift. And that even is true for those who are on schedules. And you may notice that you're having to really do a lot of alarms for yourself to make sure you're showing up at the right place at the right time. Of course, most of humanity is still very clock oriented. But this is definitely something that is a real bridge into higher states of consciousness. The awareness and the, how can I say this? The desire to allow yourself to move out of time and really start to live in the present now moment where everything is accessible. And of course, for most of us in the linear that are thinking through the head brain, that seems preposterous. How can that be? But as we move further and further into the higher realms and into the tri-wave magnetics and into the now present moment, you begin to magnetize so much easier that which is aligned, that which is part of what your soul is desiring. And I talk about time right now because there's a lot that is happening with the clock shields, the cosmic clock shields. And there's a lot of unknowns about what that is really talking about. But it is moving timelines, it is bringing things into alignment. And there is an organic clock shield and there's an inorganic clock shield. And both of these are very much part of what is the focus right now in the quantum levels. And as we bring the organic cosmic clock into alignment, we are literally taking apart the inorganic. And we talk about this being a clock shield, which we think clock, we think time. It's much, much, much more than that. But it is also starting to unravel the physical idea of time, because that's very much part of polarity and what is being deconstructed, that which is being taken apart as we continue to move into the tri-wave and into higher states of consciousness. And so as we move through this equinox energy, part of what is happening as well, there's a massive, and I say massive because many of you have been feeling this come on for weeks. There is a higher equilibrium that is trying to take place. But in that process of coming into higher equilibrium, the bifurcation is quite strong as well. And when we talk about bifurcation, we're talking about the split, if you will, coming out of polarity, coming out of the binary, and moving into the tri-wave. But there is the bifurcation that is happening, especially with those that are much not as far along on this path as we are. And so the bifurcation that is happening will also very much be tied to time. And I just want to plant this in your awareness and allow you to start really thinking about how to start really coming more into the present now moment, into your heart, into your high heart. As we move through the rest of this year, definitely through until the winter or summer solstice, depending upon which hemisphere, you're going to start noticing even more and more and more moving out of time. And the bifurcation that happens, it's going on simultaneously, but these are the two things that we're really going to be noticing, I think, in our day-to-day experience. Because we have, from a quantum perspective, we have unraveled the first, the second, and the third. And that goes fractally, so that you can talk about chakras, you can talk about dimensions, you can talk about universes. It doesn't matter because it's all the fractal of the same. And so as we now have that begin to trickle into this frequency band, out of the quantum and into our reality, that is what is going to allow us to move out of time. Because the first, the second, and the third, let's just talk about this for a moment. Let's just talk about the first. That if we just go into the chakras, which most people can relate to, the first chakra is your foundation. The first chakra is got to do with security, foundation, money, all of that, which was built on the distortion. It was built in the binary. And that is no longer there. There's nothing to hook back into. And so as we're moving out and no longer are hooked into those old holograms, those old blueprints, the way to more easily, with less effort, if you will, is to come into the now present moment and really start to move out of time. And that's going to allow you to tap into the new tri-wave, the higher frequency that is no longer operating in polarity, but is bringing us into that unity consciousness. And so as we move through this equinox energy, the higher equilibrium is to bring all of your connection, everything you're connecting to, bring it in through the high heart. That is your own personal stargate. This is where everything will be anchored from. There will be no more individualized chakras as we know it. There is not a first chakra to tap into for security and all of those things that we associate. We have to now bring a much higher equilibrium and bring everything to anchor through the high heart. And so as we move from now until, again, the solstice, there's still a lot moving. We have many more trigger dates through the end of the year. But the bifurcation of moving out of the old binary and out of time into a higher equilibrium, into anchored fully through your high heart and coming into the present now will be a significant focus. And you will start to notice even more and more of a split, but it is a split because we are completely coming unraveled from those lower binary magnetics. And so it's really, it's an exciting time. It's an interesting time. It can be a little unnerving for many because most still work through their head and not their heart. And we're still very time oriented in this reality, in this particular level of consciousness. So I invite you as we move through this equinox energy to really and forward, not just through this equinox frequency band, but from now on, to really make it a daily practice, an hourly practice for some, to make sure you're operating in the present now moment, because that's where the tri-wave anchoring is. That's where, quite frankly, the miracles are. That is where everything is accessible.